Hey, welcome to another Ham Radio Perspectives. My name is Quin. I'm Kilowatt 8, quite sexy.
And I'm Tom, WA9 TDD.
I know that threw you for a loop. You couldn't handle that.
I was not ready for the quite sexy.
Quite sexy, yeah, KAQS. I tell you what happened is I was talking to a station in Belgium, and the guy out of the blue he's laughing, and he calls me KA quite sexy. I thought, oh, man, where did he come up with that?
That is not NATO.
That's not NATO. It's not politically correct. But then, I don't know, you could be any sex or any gender and be sexy. So we'll just let that go, okay?
Please.
Quite silly. Okay, so we are the hosts, the co-hosts of Ham Radio Perspectives. We look at the intersection of ham radio history, culture, technology. We're looking especially now at culture in this time to find out what makes the hobby grow or what doesn't. And we're into another session here, part 4, looking at growing ham radio, specifically club hospitality. How do you provide for an hospitable club environment? And it can be hospitable for newcomers, for younger people, older people, anybody. So we'll talk about the importance of hospitality. And with us again, our guest, John, NJ4Z, and Steve, W3SPC. These guys are at YCARS. That's York County Amateur Radio Society. And that is not in Pennsylvania. Right, John?
Yes, sir. We are in South Carolina.
South Carolina. So we're going to look at club hospitality. Very important topic because there are clubs all over the country. How well are they doing with hospitality? We're going to find out tonight about YCARS from John and Steve because they are growing. And we want to find out what they're doing right that we can steal from them. So let's get into it, Tom.
All righty. Steve, John, I just moved into the neighborhood. Hey, I found your website and I found your meeting date. So I wander into your 10,000 square foot fully equipped clubhouse, and I'm wondering just what kind of coffee and jelly donuts are available.
Well, Steve.
Well, we rarely have coffee and jelly donuts. We do for a lot of the VE testing sessions, though, however. Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that we try really hard to do. And I tell you, you have to make a conscious effort. When somebody new walks in the door that we don't recognize and is not a normal part of the crew, we definitely try to go out of our way to welcome them and, find out a little bit about them, what brought them there to the club, and make sure that they realize that, we're here as a club to help grow the hobby, as well as our own membership. So certainly find out what their interests are, where they're at in their journey with ham radio, and make sure that they understand whatever we can do to help, we are willing to do.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is when you come into our clubhouse, it's a family kind of feel. You feel like you're coming home. At least that's what we hope we're portraying. We, go up and greet them, shake their hand. If, of course, with COVID, a little different animal right now, but we got to the point where, even members that have been members of the club for 40 years, they walk in the door, somebody's greeting them, saying hello and shaking their hand. And, when somebody new comes in, we show them all around, we introduce them to different people. And again, like Steve said, we try to find out why they're there, what's their interest in the hobby, and how we can help them.
All right. So somebody comes in the door. Is there somebody responsible for greeting them, or is it just known that somebody's going to do it?
Yeah, it's
fortunately. Go ahead, John. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty much the officers are usually up at the front door, or at least some of them are there to greet people. Sometimes you've got a couple in the back in the radio room walking people through and doing a tour or answering questions for some of the other members. But most times the officers are up front, and we're right away jumping on each other to get in to welcome somebody that's new.
And one of the important things to do is to actually set that precedent of welcoming a potential member before they ever even step foot into that clubhouse or into the meeting facility. We've got anybody that reaches out to the club now, we've got kind of a standard welcome packet and introduction packet that we distribute electronically to them to let them know exactly when we meet, what the topic of each of our meetings are for all of our scheduled meetings, and to try to make them feel included as a welcomed part of the club before they even send in an application. So, that warm, welcoming feeling starts before they actually even meet the first member of the club.
What about introductions? Do people at the beginning of a meeting, everybody stand up and take turns introducing, or how does that go?
Yeah, normally when we have guests in the house, and as whoever's presiding, whatever the president or vice president over the meeting, they'll know who are guests, and we have them introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves. If they have a call sign, you give them their call sign, and we usually give them a round of applause and welcome to the club. And then if there's somebody new that maybe doesn't have a call sign, just getting into amateur radio, we ask them about why they're getting into amateur radio. But we always do a welcome to YCARS, kind of introduce yourself, and we do a lot of introductions beforehand as well. We'll walk them around the clubhouse and introduce them to other members.
When after you do the minutes and the treasurer's reports, do you guys like gang up on the new members? And what's your experience? What do you do? What do you know? What kind of equipment have you got? Is it kind of a pat on the back, and other than just glad to see you here, and try to feel them out to see what kind of level they have of expertise in ham radio, and then from that point maybe pair them off with someone to mentor them. I hate to use the word Elmer because I keep thinking of Elmer Fudd with a shotgun.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and we don't really have a formal process around that right now, but it's just the habit that a lot of the more senior members in the club do is we do pull them aside, that have that sidebar conversation and want to learn a little bit about them and their history and their interests and so on and so forth. And we're so familiar with most of the members of the club that if somebody does have questions or they want to learn more about a particular aspect of ham radio, we can certainly rattle names, emails, phone numbers, and etc. off the top of our head, and kind of issue those mentoring referrals out to the new member. That's for sure.
Right. I've participated in some of your online nets, and you have a pretty diverse membership there that could probably tackle any question.
Yeah, it's amazing how much talent we have in the club. And we've got, guys that are satellite guys. We've got guys that are moon bounce guys. We have folks that are way into emergency communications, HF contesting, DXing, you name it in the hobby. We've got probably somebody who has a deep interest in it.
How do you go about getting their information to stay in touch with them, like an email address or a phone number?
So we've got a formal club roster. It was a battle. It took us a long time to actually get to that point, but we absolutely have a 100% accurate roster of the club. And the minimum information that we have to have from somebody is their call sign, their name, and their email address. Because John, I'll even let you speak further, but as John being the chairman of our communications committee, we're absolutely adamant about keeping in touch with our members, because there's absolutely no way that anybody in our club could say that we don't do anything. So we're constantly sharing everything that we're doing, what's coming up, what we're working on project-wise, both for the community as well as for the club itself. People are almost inundated with information from the club, that's for sure.
Yep, I've only had one complaint about my too many emails, but only one.
Spam.
Yeah, we communicate on a regular basis, whether it's through the Facebook site, the webpage, or through group emails. And we slot out the emails to different groups within for committees and those kind of things. But we try to communicate as much as we can. And one of the other things we do have is we've got a pretty good group that watches our Facebook page, and we get a lot of messages via Facebook about wanting to know about ham radio or specific questions, even though they're not members of the club. And we try to pick those guys or those people off and try to help them as much as we can, even if they're not a member of the club. It's in the spirit of ham radio to help them out. So, but yeah, we do a pretty good job of communicating, and that email is magic. If you come in that clubhouse, we want to be, getting the email and hopefully a phone number. And Steve went through the process of getting business cards made up for most of the officers. So during testing sessions or even in meetings, we all carry business cards around with us, and we're always giving business cards out to new people and say, hey, if you have a problem, here's my email, here's my phone number, call me. And that goes a long way too.
Hey, you guys are impressive. If somebody comes through the door, others are going to greet them. Is somebody going to invite them to sit down with them or stay near them in the meeting so they know where to sit down, or is that not even an issue?
It's not even an issue. It's open seating, and in our experience, if we make them feel welcome when they walk in the door, they're going to feel comfortable pretty quickly. And like John said earlier, ultimately, our goal is to make them feel like they just walked in, home, and that they they're comfortable as quickly as possible, and they'll open up and tell us about themselves and their interests, and it's pretty easy once they feel comfortable. In our experience, most people once they feel non-threatened, then they have no problem chatting.
It's amazing. Our club, again, it's very diverse, and when somebody walks in the door, usually somebody pairs up with them pretty quickly, whether it's the person walking them around for the club tour and walk them to the radio rooms, or just as we introduce people, they hit it up in a conversation, and they go and end up sitting next to that person. It's almost a non-issue. We don't have to do that and pair them off. They almost do that themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a key issue, that you have members already starting to pair themselves off with anybody walking in the door. Otherwise, you're just kind of left in the seat feeling.
Oh, and I've been there before.
Totally unfamiliar
absolutely.
with what's going on. If you've got somebody, especially if it's somebody local that you can pair up with, that's the first friend you're going to make in that club.
Absolutely. Yep.
I don't know how many hams I've talked with who have visited local clubs, and they felt so unwelcome that they never went back.
It's amazing.
And I get with the series we've done too, I've gotten emails from people. They didn't want to mention what club they went to and all, but they just said it's the opposite of what we're talking about. So it makes me wonder, do you guys get new members in part because people have heard that your place is very hospitable compared to other area clubs? And I'm not trying to get you to diss other clubs, but just to analyze it.
Well, we take it kind of from a different approach. We may have some folks, because we do have a lot of members in our club that are also a member of other area clubs, right? I'm not as concerned with what other clubs are doing, as far as, we make it a point to say it is our goal that if somebody is either new to ham radio or returning to ham radio and they want to join a club or are interested in joining a club, we just take it upon ourselves to say our goal is, once you step foot into our clubhouse, you're home. You found your home club, and you have no doubt in your mind. And even if you do join other clubs, we want to be the home club for everybody that walks into our doors.
That's great. I've gotten email as well from people telling me that in their experiences, when they first went to a club, these are less experienced hams or new hams, that if they were invited to see a radio room that was operating, it made a huge difference for them. So with your club meetings, do you also, when you give a tour, you have a station there operating or not?
Oh yeah, we've got quite a large station in the back. Steve, there's 5 operating positions.
There's 5 positions, yeah.
And typically 2 or 3 radios are on. And that was part of the reason we did the operating fun nights, and it's kind of an open house. We had a meeting to welcome new hams last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't there with my trip to Florida, but Steve presided over that meeting, and we had somebody walk in who thought it was operating fun night, and we actually got him back. I guess Steve got him back. I'll let you tell the story. He got him back in the radio room. Yeah,
it's interesting. We had somebody who found us online just because they had heard of ham radio and had an interest in finding out more. our club schedule still outlines saying the first Thursday of the month is just kind of a radio fun night. It's a social event, no set agenda. Come out, talk to hams, learn about ham radio. But we had actually had a special meeting, a new member welcome meeting that we're now beginning to run quarterly, just for new members of the club, and it's make sure that everybody understands, our committee structures and the way that we operate and all of our upcoming events and just the way that the club operates. But anyway, an individual had come in just wanting to learn more about ham radio, and he happened to walk into the new member welcome night. And he was so floored that we're a welcoming enough club to even have a meeting of that sort, and that we are and one of the agenda topics was, what interests you about ham radio and how can the club help you meet your goals? He said, well, where do I sign up? I don't have a license yet, but can I join? We said, absolutely.
That's great. That's great. What a wonderful story. So you guys are doing terrific work with Y Cars. Let me put your info up there again so people can see it. It's York County Amateur Radio Society in South Carolina, Y Cars. You go on and search for Y Cars, South Carolina. And John, NJ4Z, Steve, W3SPC. Now, if you have other questions for these guys about how they do it, because they're a growing club, this is the thing we all need to be doing, you can post them down below. And if you're on the YouTube channel with this, you can subscribe and see our other parts about growing ham radio. We'd love to help other clubs grow. And believe me, Y Cars is not just interested in growing itself. It's interested in helping other clubs. And that's one of the reasons why Tom and I wanted to do some videos in this series with John and Steve. So thank you guys a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it. Club hospitality, it works. It's important. This is Ham Radio Perspectives. I'm Quin, K8QS. Quite
And
silly.
And I'm Tom, WA9 TDD.
Thanks for watching.
Tasmanian Daredevil.
Yeah, the Tasmanian Daredevil. See you all later.
And
73.